when I lock eyes with you. I see my reflection when I lock eyes with you. I feel your affection, I love to get lost in you, 'cause you're my obsession when I lock eyes with you. And all I want is you, and all I need is you. And all I see is you, just you.
And when I lock eyes with you, I see my reflection. When I lock eyes with you, I feel your affection. I love to get lost in you, 'cause you're my obsession. When I lock eyes with you, ooh, 'cause all I want is you. And all I need is you. All I see is you, just you, Jesus. All I want is you. All I need is you. My life. All I see is you, just you, just you. Sing it again. All I want is you, Jesus. All I need is you. All I see is you, just you, just you. So coming like a fire, coming like a flood. I don't care what it looks like, I'm so in love. Oh, just coming like a fire, coming like a flood. I don't care what it looks like, I'm so in love. Coming like a fire, coming like a flood. I don't care what it looks like, I'm so in love. Coming, coming like a fire, coming like a flood. I don't care what it looks like, I'm so in love. Coming like a fire, coming like a flood. I don't care what it looks like, I'm so in love. Sing it again. Coming like a fire, coming like a flood. I don't care what it looks like, I'm so in love. 'Cause all I want is you, and all I need is you. All I see is you, just you.
Good morning, Long Hill Chapel online service. We are so glad you're joining us today. My name is Daria Hasty, and I am the Children's Ministry Director. I would love to draw your attention to our church website, www.lhcnj.net. It is at our website you will find the hub of all of our communication. We will have events, ministries that are going on in the life of our church, ways that you can connect. We have a connect card on there that if you would like to get in touch with a pastor, if you have a prayer request, anything that we can come alongside you with, that is where you would fill it out and submit it, and one of us will get back to you during the week. I also want to draw your attention, if you scroll down to the bottom, you will see a white box where you could subscribe to our weekly newsletter. Every Tuesday afternoon, you will get an email that gives you all the events that are going on and different ministry opportunities in the life of our church. If this is something that you're interested in, fill out your email address, submit it, and we will add you to our list. You will not get spammed with a lot of emails. You will just get that Tuesday afternoon one, or if there's an emergency or cancellation of service. So we thank you for being with us today, and now will you join us for worship?
He's coming on the clouds, kings and kingdoms will bow down, and every chain will break as broken hearts declare his praise. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? And our God is the Lion of Judah. He is roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before him. And our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him. Oh, oh, oh. So open up the gates, make way before the King of Kings. The God who comes to save is here to set the captives free. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He is roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him. Yeah. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? No one. Who can stop the Lord? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He is roaring with power and fighting our battles, and every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him. He's roaring in power, and he's fighting our battles. You fight every battle. You fight if you are for me, who can be against me? For Jesus, there's nothing impossible for you. When all I see are the ashes, you see the beauty. When all I see is the cross, God, you see the empty tomb. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet, and I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. An almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadow, you in every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. An almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadow, you in every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Battle belongs to you.
Good morning, LHC Kids and Beyond. I'm Miss Daria, and I love that we get to spend this Kid Spot moment together. Today we are going to talk about Ephesians 4, and I'm really excited about Ephesians 4, particularly because it talks about unity and encouraging one another. And if you've heard me talk in real life, or if you've heard me talk on this screen with you over the last few months, you know that I love building each other up and encouraging one another. So today I'm going to talk just about that, about building each other up, encouraging others. When someone tells you you're doing something wrong, or you're not doing it the way they would do it, that doesn't feel so good. But when you are someone's hype person, which means you encourage them, you cheer them on, you get excited for them, that is what fuels them to do better, to do more, and it just encourages them to try harder and to try more. I'm going to read to you Ephesians 4, and I'm going to read 15 and 16. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of Him, who is the head, that is Christ. From Him, the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work. You see, we are all part of the family of building each other up. We have the opportunity to love others, to love them with our words, to be kind and caring, to encourage them, to cheer people on. You want people to do the best that they can. You want to be part of bringing unity. We don't like division. We love unity. We love to get along. And that doesn't mean you always have to agree. It just means encouraging someone, lifting them up, and creating spaces of unity. We all have the opportunity to do this. It doesn't matter if you're 2 years old and having unity in your family and with your friends in your neighborhood and cheering them on as they ride their bike, or if you are in middle school and high school and you see someone who is struggling, who either on a sports team or just in academics in your class, you have the opportunity to encourage and lift them up, build them up so that they know that they can do more than they think they can. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. I hope to see you if you're available to come and join our LHC Kids Zoom on Wednesday night at 6:30. And if not, I will see you back here next Sunday. But I hope that you spend some time this week encouraging someone and lifting them up and bringing unity. Have a great week, kids, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Morning. My name is Andy. I'm the associate pastor here, and for the past several weeks we've been going through the book of Ephesians in a series that we're calling the In-Between. The book of Ephesians, it's all about what happens and what we're supposed to be doing, what life is supposed to be lived like between the point where we first trust Jesus as Savior until the point where we see Him face to face in heaven. Everything in between is what Ephesians is really all about. And so today we're going to be looking at the beginning of chapter 4, but before I do that, I kind of want to share a little bit about myself. From 7th grade through 12th grade, I attended a very small Christian school, which was run by the church that my family were members of at the time. It was so small that part of the job description of the youth pastor of the church was also to be the athletic director of the school, which involved being the coach of men's soccer, JV basketball, and then baseball. Needless to say, that's a lot of work, and so there was a lot of turnover in that position as guys got burned out. It kind of could say that they went through youth pastors like toilet paper during a pandemic. So just in my 6 years there, we had 2 different athletic directors. The very first one, he was not really athletic. He was kind of overweight, very overweight, but he was also very insecure. So we could tell that he needed the approval by performing. He needed to perform to get the approval of, at least he felt that he did. I don't know if that was really or if just maybe something he perceived, that he needed the approval of the other staff members of both the church and the school. So you have a guy like that who needs that approval based on his performance, and you pair that with a soccer team where maybe only a few guys really know how to play the game well, and it's not a good mix. From my time there, I really only remember the coach yelling from the sidelines at us on the field, things that just weren't very helpful at all. Things like, "You're doing it wrong. Move over there. What are you doing?" And then our personal favorite is he would yell from the sidelines in perfect King James version, James 4:17. "To him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin." Right? He's yelling this at us from the sidelines, in front of our parents, in front of our peers, in front of other pastors, and in front of the other team, who would actually, in the middle of the game, stop and kind of look at us like, "Did he really just say that?" Yeah, it's really embarrassing. So these things just were not helpful. Then to add insult to injury, he didn't have any relationship with any of his players outside of the field. So we really only interacted with each other on the soccer field during practices or games or at some big youth event. But there was never any really one-on-one. So he didn't know us. We didn't really know him. So anytime that he gave us any kind of instruction, yelling at us from the sidelines, we could only receive those as insults, not as helpful encouragements. Now, thankfully, he didn't last very long. But the new guy that they hired, he was actually a really great coach. Not only did he have a lot of experience playing both soccer and baseball, he was actually able to speak into the game, but he was just a really nice guy. If there was ever an issue, he would take us off to the side and show us what we were doing wrong and how to make it better, how to make the team better by becoming better individually. We learned to be able to trust each other, whereas with the first athletic director, our team was full of disunity. We were always in conflict with each other. There was never any maturing of each other. We were always out for our own selves. But with the second guy, it was a completely different story because we were able to trust each other, because no one's saying, I just can't get yelled at more than you this game. So there was some unity being built. And not only that, but he went out of his way. He took a lot of time to engage with each player individually, getting to know us and us getting to know him and building relationships. So much so that he actually visited me, my wife, and my family here at this church only a couple of years ago. We went out to lunch afterwards. He spent the day with us. Just really a great guy. And so we were able to flourish under that kind of direction. That's really the point of this, is the unity is what made all the difference. It made all the difference. How we interacted with each other as players, how we engaged with each other in conflict is what made all the difference. With the first coach, we did not win many games. With the second, we started on a path to winning, and actually had some winning seasons in there, even though there's many guys that didn't even know how to play the game. But it was just good coaching and encouraged us to be united, unified, and engaging in conflict well. And Paul here shares the same sentiments in Ephesians chapter 4. I just want to start with the first 6 verses here. And so Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1, as a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. So right here, Paul giving us an example right off the bat of what unity should look like in the church, and it should look like, as God is unified, that's how unified we should be. I'm not talking about uniformity. That's not the same thing. We're all different people. It's unity, a spirit of unity. That's what he's getting at here. And he says, live a life worthy of your calling. So right here, there's kind of a transition that Paul takes. So the beginning of the letter was all about kind of theology, philosophy. This is kind of an overview of what it should look like. And then now he starts getting into this is how it's practically lived out. This is what we believe. This is how it applies. And he says to live a life worthy of your calling. And he's not saying here that we're supposed to try to earn that. We can never earn that. What he is saying is that you were this, now you're this. So it's time to act like it. That's what living a life worthy of the call means. And what living a life worthy of the call looks like is to be unified, to have the maintaining the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. What's interesting about that is that we actually have to engage in conflict in order for that to be possible. We all have to engage in conflict for that to be possible. And it's because we're all human. And because we're human, we fall, we fail, we sin, we offend. And because we offend, those offenses have to be called out when they're not. And we just allow those offenses time after time after time after time, or we make excuses for them. It ends up damaging not only ourselves, but others. And it damages the holy name of Jesus to those who are being hurt and to those who are watching it happen. So unity is impossible without conflict. I mean, all of life is impossible without conflict. But to have unity, there has to be some conflict. And that's because we're all different. We all look, act, speak differently. We all have a view of the world that's as unique to ourselves as our own fingerprints. And so, yeah, we're going to conflict with each other at times. We're going to collide with each other at times. And that's okay, as long as we go about engaging each other the right way, which means that it can't be for revenge. It can't be to get some sense of justice for yourself. And it can't even really be to make yourself heard. So the reasons to engage in conflict, there are two of them. One is to glorify God, and the other is to restore the relationship with your brother and sister in Christ. Now, Christians, it's funny, we have these instructions all through Scripture about how to do this, and especially here in Ephesians chapter 4, but we're actually really bad at doing this. And there's either some insecurity that's buried deep down inside and it comes up whenever there's conflict and we react harshly, more so than the offense. Or there's some perceived or even contrived moral high ground that we like to stand on, that we can look down and judge others for the way that they're doing things. Or we don't know the person well enough to engage them, but we do anyway. And when we do, our words only stand to come across as harsh, hurtful, insulting, or judgmental, or any combination of those. So the only way to engage conflict well is first, as Paul says here, to be completely humble. Trying to resolve conflict in a way that glorifies God and restores relationships without humility, it's like trying to swim at the beach without the water. You're just flailing around in the sand. And yeah, it looks absolutely crazy and ridiculous, but when the watching world sees us go and engage conflict without being completely humble, it's the same thing, like, whoa, I want to stay away from that. I don't want any part of that. Pride denies absolutely everything that Jesus says that he is. Humility is how we're able to be corrected and receive that correction in the right spirit. It's also how we're able to give correction in the right spirit as we approach someone else. So it's being completely humble, and then we have to be gentle. So how we engage others, it should never be aggressive or even passive aggressive. Gently engaging others, it's done with the same care as if you were to remove a splinter from someone's finger. You don't use a hammer. That only does more damage. No, instead you get a little pair of tweezers, right? Or maybe a sewing needle, right? Or one of those lancet things. Those things are amazing if you ever use one of those things. They're amazing at getting the splinters out. But whatever it is, you're using small tools and you're using them gently to draw something out that's underneath the skin. That's what's being applied here. It's gently engaging. It's how we approach one another in conflict. The second coach that I mentioned earlier, if there was anything that he felt like he wanted to address with me, he would take me aside and he would treat me gently with it. It wasn't something that he'd yell from the sidelines in front of everyone else. He didn't use a hammer. He used the small tools. And just say, this is something I think you can work on. This is something I saw that I'm not sure if it was just something you did at that moment or if it's a habit. Let's work on that. That's how we gently engage. And then be patient. Be patient. Nobody changes quickly. Think about this. When was the last time you had a bad habit that changed overnight? No? I can't think of a single one. A bad habit. You give as much time as you need. You'll never find a bad habit that changed overnight. It doesn't happen. It has to start first with recognizing the need to change. The heart then has to receive the truth of how we go about changing. Then the mind has to will the body to change. And then the body has to stop craving that thing or defaulting to it. So yeah, it takes time. And we need to be patient, engaging one another in conflict areas. And then lastly, bearing with one another in love. And the key word there, or key words rather, are in love. This is not the same as a grit your teeth and bear it with people that you only see temporarily, maybe your coworkers. It's not the same kind of bearing with one another. This is family. It's for the sake of having and maintaining important relationships. And everyone has a certain type of people that they are just automatically going to have conflicts with, that they are frustrated by. And in this world, and especially on social media, what we're taught to do is ignore it. Push it off to the side, back away, back off, and not engage it at all. Just let it go and be on the other side. But that's not what family does. That's not what we're called to do. That's not what it means to bear with one another in love. In order to keep the unity and of the Spirit and the bond of peace, it's lovingly forbearing, bearing with others. Now, what if everyone else in this, well, maybe just think of a person, maybe there's not really a person, but think of one with me. There's a person who their entire lives, they've gone around, people have backed away, they've backed off, they've ran away, or they've gone after them and attacked them, or just ignored them completely. Their entire lives, because they're a little rough around the edges. Maybe very rough around the edges. What if you're the first person they come in contact with that shows them mercy, that shows them grace, that's able to lovingly bear with them? You might be the first person they ever encounter who doesn't back off, back away, or attack, or ignore them. That'd be an incredible thing for that person in their life. That wow, there's someone that actually can deal with my stuff. And it's not dealing with it in a way that you're taking it on, but you're dealing with it in a way that you're able to approach them and them approach you without these emotions coming in. That'd be amazing for them. I know there are people like that. So it's so important that we approach each other in humility, with gentleness, patience, and bearing with each other in love. And that way, we can make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. I smile like it's that easy. You're probably thinking now, it's like, this is ridiculous. How am I supposed to keep these things in mind every day, right after I wake up, take my shower, brush my teeth, whatever? I now have to go through the checklist of my mind of saying, am I humble? How can I be gentle? Am I being patient? And who is it that I'm not bearing with? And to have these checklists as you go down, that's exhausting after a while. Yes, those are good things to do at the start, but to continue that on is going to be exhausting. But there's good news. There's really good news with this. Even though it's absolutely necessary, it does get easier. It does get easier. It's not when you let go of those things, you continue on in them, but it gets easier. And instead of constantly going through the checklist of introspection all the time, as you get closer to Jesus, by His grace is actually the thing that starts changing you. So you're not going through that checklist of introspection anymore. It's automatically happening in you as Jesus, His grace, works in you, through you, and with you to perform His will. His will being, we're experiencing the unity of the Spirit, the bond of peace. Just as we see here in verse 7, it's the grace of Jesus that makes all of this possible. Picking up in verse 7, but to each one of us grace has been given as Christ apportioned it. This is why it says, when He ascended on high, He took many captives and gave gifts to His people. What does He ascended mean except that He also descended into the lower earthly regions? He who descended is the very one who ascended higher than all the heavens in order to fill the whole universe. So Christ Himself gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors and teachers to equip His people for works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up until we all reach unity in the faith and in the knowledge of the Son of God, and become mature, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. Then we will no longer be infants, tossed back and forth by the waves and blown here and there by every wind of teaching and by the cunning craftiness of people in their deceitful scheming. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of Him who is the head, that is, Christ. From Him the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work. Those gifts that Jesus gave to the church, some take those as spiritual gifts. Those are not the same thing as spiritual gifts. These are gifts of people that Jesus gave to the church. When Jesus left, he ascended to heaven. He's no longer on earth in physical form. He gave gifts of people to the church, the Big C church. So it's to all the churches. There were apostles and prophets. We see that mentioned a couple other times in Ephesians. And then also he adds in here evangelists and pastor teachers. He gives these people to the church so that we would have an example to follow. We would have something to look at. The writings of the apostles, the teachings that we now call the New Testament. We would have these things that would last us the rest of eternity, or well, at least our time on this earth, to allow us to live as God desires, living in the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace. And here's why he does it. He gives us these pastor teachers, these evangelists, the apostles, prophets, so that we would love others genuinely and sincerely with pure hearts. That we would love others genuinely and sincerely with pure hearts. You can't get unity any other way unless there's love involved. That's how we're able to trust one another. That's how unity is formed. We would love others genuinely and sincerely with pure hearts. And in other words, it's loving not to gain anything in return. Love has to be our motivation to be completely humble, gentle, patient, and bearing with one another in love. By understanding this kind of love, it often means allowing yourself to be open with others who remain closed off and who also may hurt you. Now, I was helping a person walk through their stuff through a Facebook Messenger not too long ago. It was actually only a few weeks ago. I was helping this person walk through some of their heavy trauma in life and some of the conflict, and taking hours out of a couple of days helping them walk through this stuff. Well, that person became interested in what I was talking about, so they took a little tour of my Facebook page, looked at my friends list and some other things, and they saw something that triggered them. So they formulated this whole narrative in their minds and ended up writing a really long Facebook post and put it up publicly for everybody to see, tagging some of our mutual friends in it so I know they saw it. I'm just going, really? I just spent this time and you working with you through this thing, and you totally knocked me in this thing. It would be very easy for me to go after that or just ignore that person from then on. But if I want to have the ability to be able to continue speaking into this person's situation, speaking into this person's life, that's not acceptable. I can't do that. So I ended up gently engaging, going back to Facebook Messenger where it's just between me and the other person, and explaining, first asking what this was about and then explaining the reality of it. So it was a completely wrong narrative. But this is what people do, right? Loving one another sincerely with pure hearts, not expecting anything in return, knowing that when you love like that, you do open yourself up to be hurt. You open yourself up to others who are closed off and insecure and could use anything that you're saying or feeling against you. Loving each other sincerely and genuinely with pure hearts kind of opens yourself up to invite that. But Jesus being our perfect example, that's what he did. That's what he continues to do for us all the time. It's how we respond in these kinds of situations that will confirm who we know Jesus to be or who someone else believes Jesus to be. Either way, a view of Jesus is going to be confirmed in how we respond in these kinds of situations. So one, we love each other sincerely and genuinely with pure hearts. Second, we speak the truth in love to one another. This is a complex thing. It's not so easy. It's speaking the truth in love to one another. So there's a few things that are required before we can engage in that. Number one is that you have to have already received the truth you're about to speak. Otherwise, you're being a hypocrite. You can't speak a truth to somebody that you're not actively living out yourself. It's not right and it's not fair. And that person, when they catch you in that, they're going to just take everything you said and throw it out. So you have to have received the truth you're about to speak first. Second, you've built up enough relational currency to speak into that other person's life. It's not just a random person giving random advice to another person. It's someone you have a relationship with that you have now built up the goodwill to speak into that person's life. And lastly, you have enough spiritual maturity to engage that other person. So that means you're doing it humbly, gently, patiently, and with forbearance, with a genuine desire to see that person grow in the grace of Jesus, knowing it's not about you and the advice you're giving, it's about them drawing closer to Jesus. Otherwise, if you're missing any one of those three things, don't dare do it. Don't engage in conflict with that person. Don't engage them. Even if you plan on doing it gently, you're missing one of those three areas, don't do it. Because what we speak, what we say, how we do it, the way they receive it is just as important as what we say and how we say it. It's all about how they receive it as well. Their perception of what we're doing and what we're saying is as important as what we're saying and what we're doing, engaging in conflict. And thirdly, that we would build one another up and support one another. It's shouldering each other in our weaknesses. And this is something that takes all of us. And as Paul says here, as each part does its work. There's no one part of the human body that when it's in pain, the whole rest of the body doesn't suffer with it. If you have a broken finger, a broken arm, broken part of the body, or something that's in a lot of pain, the rest of the body compensates for that. So that's what it's saying. You're shouldering each other in their weakness. Not one part of the human body is comfortable when another part of the human body is in pain. And that's because our minds won't let that happen. And the brain controls the whole thing. And Jesus is the head of the church. And if we are all, and we're parts of the body, and if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and obeying Jesus Christ, the head of the body, then we should see a system with all of its parts working in perfect unity, caring for one another and building itself up in love as we all journey toward Jesus together. That's why we all need each other, to bring each other to that place. Every one of us, absolutely every one of us, is absolutely essential for the body to work together in unity and to build itself up in love until we're all mature in Christ. And that's the goal. That's the whole goal of church. To become unified, maturing each other in Jesus. It's what we are. It's what we're becoming. One body, fit together, maturing and growing in Jesus. That means that it takes me to do this. It takes you to do this. So how are you helping to support, develop, and build each other up in love? Where can you start? Maybe you need to get to know others first. I know this has been really hard with the pandemic, but maybe it's just a matter of reaching out to one person that maybe you don't know so well. Just getting to know them a little bit. You know, being online, there's a lot of perks to that. You get to meet people that maybe you don't have a chance to meet otherwise. But you just drop a message. They get back to you. Just friendly at first. Getting to know each other. Then digging a little deeper. Who knows? Your best friend might be on the other side of a Facebook post. The best friend you never had. Oh, I don't know. Maybe. Maybe you just need to get to know each other better. But that's where it begins. Maybe you know someone who needs support. Maybe you're not sure what to do with that. I know this person is hurting. I know they need support. I know they're feeling weak right now, but I don't know how to go about doing this. Well, maybe just start with prayer. Maybe ask someone who's been there and done that and has helped people out. Maybe it's ask myself, ask Pastor Michael, ask Joey, ask Daria. They know things. They've walked people through things. They know how to gently engage. They might be able to give you some tips for that. And maybe you yourself are hurting. Maybe you're feeling weak. Maybe you feel like you need support. And maybe you're not sure what that help even looks like. But understanding that it is a huge risk to put yourself out there, and risk being judged, risk being maybe ridiculed for it, to share your struggles with another person, especially when Christians are kind of known for doing that a little bit. But you know, the reason we're so bad at that is because we prefer to hide or deny those things about us that we should be sharing. If we all learn to open up with each other a little bit better, I think we would become more unified, a little bit more mature as we build into each other's lives.
Just you, sing it again, all I want is you,
Just you.
all I need is you, all I see is you, just you, just you. So coming like a fire, coming like a flood. I don't care what it looks like. I'm so in love. Oh, just coming like a fire, coming like a flood. I don't care what it looks like. I'm so in love. Coming like a fire, coming like a flood. I don't care what it looks like. I'm so